So I've been a developer now for 16 years. I got my start back in 2007 as a junior front-end developer at a digital asset management company. Back then it was all just build web pages and then battle to make them work in IE6. But I didn't last very long there. Actually, I got the opportunity to join an agency called Mint Digital, who were building their applications in Ruby on Rails. And so as a front-end developer, I was able to learn the framework and then Ruby, the language, to fully understand the full stack. I used to build sites for TV shows, which was an interesting experience because you'd launch and then on day one you'd have 1 million users. But once the TV show was done, those users would just dwindle away until you could eventually just close down the application. So then we started building our own products as well, which is the opposite experience. But I was lucky enough to lead development on a platform where we used the Instagram API to turn your Instagram photos into fridge magnets, which was a pleasing success. But whilst I was at Mint, also I got more involved in local developer communities. I started attending local events and hackathons and then speaking at events. And that led me to my next role, which was as a developer evangelist at Twilio. That led me to use my experience to teach developers around the world about communications APIs, about how to send text messages and make phone calls in just a few lines of code. And then at the start of this year, I joined Sonar, where I'm happy to be part of the team spreading this message of clean code. You'll find me writing technical articles or working on open source or speaking at events around the world to kind of spread this message and use my experience to help developers build their applications using clean code principles and ultimately build better applications. So I was never really a child that knew what they wanted to be when they grew up. I was very indecisive as a kid, so I didn't know I wanted to be a developer for quite a long time. But as I look back kind of through my life, I can kind of see a bit of a thread that led me to the point where I wanted that. First interactions I had with a computer at school were with Logo, you know, the turtle that you gave instructions to that would then draw stuff on the screen. At the age of like 13 or 14, I remember doing a class on HTML. I specifically remember we were building a page about ourselves, and I put things into a table and then gave that table enormous borders, and the background was maroon for some reason. That's absolutely stuck in my head. And then I did do computer science to the end of high school. And at the end of that degree, I was actually I didn't think I was going to be a developer. What happened was when I should have been revising for those final exams, I was actually messing around and building websites for myself and for other people I knew. And ultimately I realized I could do this as a job. And so JavaScript and HTML and CSS kind of brought me back into this world of being a developer. And once I realized that's when I kind of cracked down to learn how to do that and eventually get myself that job as a junior developer. And so I built myself a blog. I started writing about what I was learning, and that ultimately led me to be a developer about a year later. So one of the greatest lessons I've learned in my career as a developer is that there is far too much stuff in this industry for any one person to know. It's actually the case that people are pushing the boundaries of development and of programming every single day. And the more you learn, the more you know there is to learn. It's taking a step back and understanding that you don't need to learn it all, that you don't need to know it all, can melt that stress away. Instead, it's just important to understand the fundamentals of the language and the platform you're building in. And from strong foundations like that, you'll be able to learn anything else that you need to when you actually need it. If you're starting out as a developer now, my advice to you would be to write about the experiences you have and the things you learn, and preferably publish that as well. There's an enormous number of benefits to writing about your experiences. When you write about something as if to explain it to somebody else, you actually have to dig a little bit deeper into your understanding of it in order to turn that into an explanation. And it turns out you end up learning the subject with greater clarity and greater understanding. Then, if you actually publish this online somewhere, those writings can go towards helping other people in the community as well. The way you explain something could be the key to unlock understanding for somebody else. Like, my entire career is based on the fact that I started writing about web development, and that got me a foot in the door in at least the first 2 job opportunities that I had. And indeed, continuing to write and learn and write more and publish led me into ultimately sharing that knowledge in presentations and on stage, and opportunities that have come out of the fact that I chose to start blogging about my experiences right at the start of my career have been amazing to me, and I can only recommend that you do the same. As a developer, clean code means to me writing code correctly the first time. It means avoiding writing unnecessary bugs or overly complicated code or introducing security issues. It's code that you're confident to deploy to production, but happy when you come back to it 6 months or a year later to work with again. Clean code is never legacy code. It's always just a joy to work with.